I mean, I just always try and keep a positive attitude, and this sort of thing really helps.
That's all you can do, can't you, mate? You can't get bogged down into the what ifs, mate. You just got to keep on going. Well, mate. Look
That's
at the bright
exactly
side
right.
every time.
Yeah.
100%, Tyson. Hey.
Yeah, even the little things like, buddy, there was a kookaburra on my railing on Sunday morning, fed a few bits and pieces, and just hanging out with the kookaburra, like it's a good start to the morning, and all little things that kind of help right up the day rather than weathering down in all the news and the scroll and everything else. So just little things. Anyway,
Exactly.
Lockie's on, so we'll start the show.
100%, mate. At least we're not in places like Afghanistan or something, eh?
Oh, bloody oath.
All right, boys, let's rip in. Thanks for getting some combos going, gentlemen. While I was trying to sort out that Facebook to Zoom matchup, we've got it happening. So thanks for everyone who sent me the links on how to do that. We're good to go. So, gents, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone got through their homework. Obviously, to be brutally honest, it doesn't affect my quality of life if you didn't. That's on you guys. We'll do a quick recap on it. And if you have any questions or if you got stuck anywhere with it, like, please, obviously you can unmute yourself or you can write in the chat there, and we'll quickly see if we can help you get a better understanding with that. Obviously, same as last night, sorry, if this is recording, obviously for the people who aren't on live and would like to catch the replay. So if you don't want your beautiful faces being filmed, just hit the hide your camera button down the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You can just hit stop video, as a few of the gentlemen have already done. So you'll be fine to do that. Like I said, if you want to ask questions throughout it, or if you have questions about last night, post them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just ask away. Obviously, I believe personally, from all the way I like to learn and stuff, engaging and asking questions and having conversations is one of the best ways that I learn. So I think, if anyone else out there enjoys doing that, definitely ask some questions, but also be mindful of time. I do want to wrap this up by 6:30 and respect your guys' time tonight, so you can get out there and get back to doing what you'd normally be doing on a Tuesday night. What we're going to be going through tonight, obviously, I'd love to give you guys specific examples for everything, all the 8 areas and things that we'll talk about. But, I guess when I say specific examples, it would be to your own situations and things that are going on currently for you guys. But obviously, time, we don't have enough of that. So please try and more so focus on the principles, because if you understand the principles or the tools and why these things are important, then you'll be able to continue to use it within your life from various, time to time again, as you continue to grow and develop. Cool. So we've already got one question. Adzi, mate, by level 7, could you give us some examples of what you're digging down to? I don't know which Adzi that one is. Is that Copping or? Yeah, the legend. For me, like what mine came down to, and I knew that question was going to be asked, it comes down to generally the 6 basic principles. If anyone's seen Tony Robbins, what's it called? Or is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Like, it comes down to love, connection, significance, or something like that. Like, that's what it really boils down to, because within that 7 levels exercise, guys, what it does, or what it did for me, was highlight that I was always looking out to go in. I was trying to achieve this, and when it boiled down to it, I wanted love, connection, and significance. So in order to set these goals that continue to change, and whoever's bought a new car or house or something new, like, think about how hard you may have worked for that. And then after, you actually use a fucking iPhone, everyone's got it, or a Samsung if you're on the poor Android wagon. I'm not a fan of Androids. We'll get salty here. But if you've got obviously iPhones or phones, every time you update your phone, the first thing, you're always very gentle with it. You put it down carefully on the counter, and within, maybe a month, you're just tossing it all over the place and you couldn't really give 2 shits about it. So that's the approach of understanding. Now, if we're looking for external things or things outside us, like maybe how much you earn, what role you have, how people perceive you, or whatever you may have started with, you're never really going to hit that mark, because once you achieve it, it's like, okay, I don't feel the love or this recognition. Look at athletes, right? When they finish sport, generally there's a fall from, not a fall from grace, but they go through a period of trying to figure out who they are again. Because for a long time, a lot of their validation, their significance, and their recognition has come externally, and they haven't, done the work to understand that it's deeper. So for that level 7, does that make sense, Adzi? So it goes, you might have even got there in 5, and then you might have been like, oh, maybe 6, I'll try and see if there's something else. But we're really trying to boil down to those things that we can have right now. Does that make sense? Did anyone else get stuck with that one? Epic, everyone nailed it. So essentially, Jensen, like I might even post, if I remember, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you haven't looked at that before, hierarchy of needs or whatever it's called, but you can see there what it really boils down to. So then when you think about things that you're striving towards in life, you know, if you're striving towards 200K, for example, I don't know why I pulled that number, but 200K, I think someone messaged me about that before. And you're doing that because, you know, it boils down to significance. It makes you feel like you can protect and provide. The reason why you want to feel like you can protect and provide is you want to feel loved and you want to feel significant. We then can shift the focus to go, okay, well, rather than, you know, obviously it's awesome to have that goal and definitely don't take that goal away, but what can you do right now to feel loved or significant? Let's focus on what we can do right now, because otherwise, you know, it might take you 2 years, 10 years, or it may never happen. So you're never going to get to experience what you're actually looking for. And generally, when you're already in a place of feeling what you're striving towards, you generally create more success and fulfillment and happiness and all that in the process. Does that make sense, gents? Was there anyone that didn't really understand the 8 areas part? Because we're going to need that for tonight. So I'll share my screen quickly, just so for those who aren't. Oh, sorry, that's a different one. Can you guys see that worksheet there? It says visions. Cool. So obviously the 8 areas all men must master. What we went through last night, and I recommended you guys do for some homework, was thinking about what you would like that area to look like, feel like, or sound like, depending on which way you like to talk or experiencing things, in 12 weeks, but then also 1 year. So what you're starting to do in this process, gents, is starting to cast a vision or create a vision for yourself, what you want it to look like. Okay, and what we're diving into tonight within that is going a little bit further based around, you know, if you're wanting love, acceptance, significance, or whatever you got to, is how do we start casting a vision where you can actually achieve that? Like, what's the vision for your life? I did this exercise back in 2016, I think it was, from memory with one of my coaches back in the day. And when I started thinking about what I wanted for my life, I was struggling with so many limiting beliefs I had around myself. Like, I didn't believe I could be successful. I believed I was a specific kind of person. I knew I couldn't drink alcohol without being a twat. And I knew all this sort of stuff. And because I had all those experiences linked to that, I wasn't able to dream past what I was currently doing at that point in my life. And for me, I'd just finished up playing rugby, and I was working as doing an apprenticeship for building, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't the best fit. For some people it is. For me, I fucking hated it. And I've always felt like, and hands up if you've ever felt like in your life that you're here for something bigger, like you're here, whether it's to be a fucking awesome dad, to whatever it is, like you just got that feeling in your stomach that's hard to really explain what it is, where you know you're here for something bigger and better. I think that's why you guys are here tonight. And as much as depending on where you're at, talk like this may be uncomfortable for you, or may just be like, oh, fucking righto, mate. Because I've been on the other side where I've heard people say that and I never truly believed it. But that's why, for me, I'm not going to sugarcoat this shit. Like, for you to get what you want from life takes work. It's going to take setbacks. It's going to, you're going to face overwhelm, probably anxiety, doubt, all that sort of shit's coming, because you can't get to the other side of where the good stuff is without going through that and growing through that. That's all part of the process. But I think for much too long, we hear the thing is like, make a vision board and cast a vision for yourself and just close your eyes and tap your feet and you're good. Doesn't happen. there has to be work. There has to be looking in the mirror. It has to be a good hard look in the mirror in order to achieve that. But just before we dive into that, everyone was comfortable with the 8 areas. No one got stuck on any of them. I'm just trying to scroll through the bottom to see. If anyone did, just either post in the chat or definitely unmute yourself.
Yeah, look, mate, it's Chris here. Mate, the only one I had a bit of trouble with was around the growth and spirituality. Like, I'm not a very particularly spiritual person.
Yep.
I wondered, like, is the growth part more about like personal development, something that I might be interested, passionate about, that I want to be able to implement and achieve in a short term? Is that kind of what that would?
Yeah, definitely. Great question, Chris, and thanks for speaking up. So even, you know, I wouldn't say I'm spiritual, but some people connect to spiritual. You might say growth and mindfulness, right? Mindfulness for me would be, and how I would respond to that, Chris, for me is like me just understanding how I want to get to know myself on a deeper level. So yeah, personal development, attending workshops, fucking, you know, Adam and I have a mutual friend who just did a 10-day Vipassana. Like, that shit interests me because I want to understand what that experience is like. So there's many things. And if you even just Google mindfulness, but that's where I'd look for that part. And I think, you know, even tying that into, you know, casting maybe a 5-year or 10-year vision, which is what we're going to have for homework, probably not to finish tonight, but definitely to leave you guys with, is how do you want to be showing up in 10 years? What do you want to understand about yourself? What experiences, skills, habits, and all of that do you want to have learned? Because when you start thinking, who do I know what does? So Coppo's in the trade industry, right? As a carpenter, building guy. So when you start a trade, like when I started my apprenticeship, I had an idea that I wanted to be able to build my own homes, but first I needed to learn how to put a fucking tool belt on. I needed to get in the habit of actually turning up and not trying to, you know, nick off during smoko and do all these other things. And I had to then be trusted by reading plans, doing things. Then I had to do the builder's license and all of that sort of stuff, which I didn't actually do. But there's a whole process. So in order for someone, you know, who mightn't have started their apprenticeship yet and says, hey, Coppo, I want to do what you're doing one day where I'm running a company, then you go, right, well, let's have a look at what that vision or that plan would really look like. And this is sort of a timeline for that. These are skills you're going to have to learn. You might have to learn to lead people. You might have to learn to negotiate. It's probably a good thing. You might have to learn to source work. And that's even just outside of fucking building. But there's all these things that often us as people don't take into account in order to achieve an outcome, right? Most people, when they want to start a business, don't think about sales, marketing, or whatever. And especially, you know, a lot of my mates are chippies. They go from being incredible chippies to all of a sudden having that much work, they become a builder, but they don't understand how to run a business, negotiate, market, organize, you know, or outsource to lawyers and all that sort of stuff. So for me, and I guess I would pass that on to you guys when you're thinking about when we go into this vision stuff, is think outside of just this, you know, having your blinkers on. What else do you feel could help with that? And if you get stuck with that, this is where just picking up books on anything, even autobiographies, will help you find things, or even having coaches and mentors, even or go into networking groups, right? Because they'll highlight your blind spots. They'll help you think about and become aware of things that maybe you haven't thought of previously, right? And that's why, I guess, for that growth and mindfulness stuff, like for me, I network with people who do similar things to me. I read a lot on it. I read a lot of autobiographies. I study psychology. I want to understand. There's so much to learn, and I know that I haven't even fucking scratched the surface. So I hope that's helpful, Chris. Was there anyone else? Oh, there's a few in the chat here. Tice, career. So I've done a variety of things, but nothing set in stone. So do you mean by a variety of things to date?
Yeah, to date. Yeah, I've just done years here and there as like a TA to other trades, and then now I'm in working in pneumatics. I've done a bunch of different things that I'm kind of, you know, putting my hands or whatever, but yeah, nothing's really been established. I did a electrical apprenticeship for about 2.5 years, and then same boat. It just wasn't the right fit. Plus, I wasn't getting the theory behind it as well. So I've done an audio degree since, and I was doing live sound weeknights at a the RSL down here in Sydney, but then COVID over the last couple of months has knocked that. But yeah, pretty much done a big variety of things, but nothing to really solidly fall back on, I suppose.
Yeah, epic. But I could probably guarantee that you've learned a heap of helpful skills through doing multiple different things, and you've probably also become aware of things that you don't enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't put a price on that kind of experience for sure. Yeah, it had its pluses.
So I guess for me, guys, I never wanted to start the man that camp. Like I never left rugby going, I'm going to be a coach. I left, even prior to rugby, I was doing, started my apprenticeship. I deferred the apprenticeship. I'd done bricklaying, roofing, glass, a bit. I was a glassy, did Uber drive. I was actually Brisbane's best Uber driver for those who live in Brisbane. I did door-to-door marketing, like I did sales, sorry. I did all of these different things, and I literally would have chopped, jobs within sometimes 6 months, sometimes 3 weeks. And I always, because at this point I was doing, work on myself, I was like, what do I like about that? And what don't I like? And for me, and once again, I learned pretty early on that I didn't want to be employed, purely because when I thought about what I wanted for myself long-term, I wanted flexibility and I wanted to be in control of my income. They were two, as I mentioned last night, for those who were on here, like two of the main things for me was understanding what was going on in my head and also getting my finances sorted. So I didn't want to be at the effect of someone paying my wage, and not saying that's a bad thing, but that's just for me what was happening. So I always started thinking, okay, well, how can I make a living doing something I love, and what skills do I need to learn? Because everything that I did to that point taught me stuff that helped me launch my business and have been extremely valuable to that point. And I wouldn't have the business that I have without that. So I would say, okay, well, for yourself, Tyson, what strikes your curiosity next, and what skills can you bring to that industry, or maybe roles in that field, if that makes sense. Last one, and then we'll dive into it. Chris had partner, love, friends, and family. I couldn't think of anything. So think about the kind of partner you want to be or you want to attract into your life if you aren't in a relationship. I know for myself, and some of you may agree or disagree, but my parents have been the greatest role models in terms of what to do and what not to do in a relationship from what I've observed with them. And, some things that I know I want to be within a relationship. I want to have one of those relationships that most people strive towards. I believe, there's 3 phases in relationships. There's the relationship phase, obviously the relationship phase, the honeymoon phase, that period, whether it lasts 3 months, 6 months, some people's goes on forever, where you're bending over backwards to do whatever you can to impress them and listen to them. And it's real passionate and exciting. And then we go into phase 2, which is where most people get stuck. They either stay there and become bitter, or they fuck the relationship off, which is where you become comfortable. You start noticing and focusing on the flaws, and you stop doing what you did in the beginning. You become complacent. You become very passive. Right. And where I believe most people, and myself included, are trying to get to is that stage 3, is where you can achieve all your goals. You can see the flaws, but you can also focus on what it is that you love, and you can keep the energy and the passion in it the way that, it was at the honeymoon stage, while life is throwing shit at you. That's where I believe, and that's a really simplified version, but that's where, so Chris, to go back to your point, like what would you showing up in that manner look like? Are you making time for date nights? Are you doing cheeky little, if you've read the 5 love languages, understanding your partner's love languages and learning that. You don't just know what it is and nail it. You got to learn it. Right. Same with your mates. Right. So obviously I can go into more depth with that, Chris, offline, but same with your mates. Like, what kind of people do you want to be around? What kind of relationship do you want to have with your mates? Is it just the one where you go catch up at the pub, talk shit and have a punt? Or do you want to have that relationship where your mates call you because they know when shit's tough, they can open up to you? Do you want to have a real life example for me was about 6 years ago when I just started making friends in Brisbane, and a lot of them still continued going out drinking. And one weekend they're like, all right, we're going out here again. I just wrote in the chat, if anyone wants to come for a hike, I'm going for a hike. Otherwise I'm out. And one bloke came for the hike, and I don't really speak to any of the other guys anymore. And it's not, once again, because they're bad people. I just I've done that. I wanted different things. So for when I think about what I wanted, this will make a lot more sense tonight, guys, when we talk about standards. Like, what standards do you need to have and expectations of your actions in order to achieve these things? Does that make sense? Is everyone cool with all of that? And Ty's partner is hard, but mate, but all right. So partner is hard, haven't had a missus most of your life. It's thinking about how you want to show up, and then also creating a vision for what you want that partner to be. What do they value? How do they treat you? Are they growing? Like for me, I couldn't, my missus is amazing because she grows with me, whereas previous ones, I guess none of us were growing. But if I had to stay with them now, I probably would be growing and they wouldn't. And if you're not growing together, you're growing apart. So we can talk more about that after, Tice, if you want. Cool. Awesome. Let's get into the vision stuff. This is the fun shit. But it'll also take more time for you guys after this to go through. I've put some questions here, gents. And I really want you to think about these, because the more questions you ask yourself, and obviously the better questions you ask yourself, and I've just given you a few here, the easier this is going to be moving forward. But when we think about a vision, you can decide, right? Do you want to make it a 10-year vision? For some of you, that might freak you out, but I would highly encourage you to challenge yourself and think that far ahead, because, think about how quick the last decade's gone. Do you want to make it 5 years or whatever? What I did a 10-year back in, what did I say, 2016, I think it was. And you just work back. So last night we said start with 12 weeks and go to a year. It's always easy to start planning out. But what if I was to say to you guys, what would you like your life to look like in 10 years, knowing what you know now, right? Looking at life through the lens that you have right now. Be understanding that it's going to change. But I know for myself, guys, in 2016, it was when I was starting to take off in network marketing. For those who hate network marketing, don't hate me. But one of my big goals was to speak in front of, tens of thousands of people. That was a huge goal for me. And I was coming from a very introverted, angry bloke, but I saw a guy speak who was a bricklayer and he's a good mate of mine now. And I was like, I want to be like him. And I still remember telling mum, this is what I want to do. So then when I started working with Joel, my old mentor, and we went through this, it was like, okay, well, year 10, I want to be speaking to fucking tens of thousands of people, and not for this company, but for myself. Right. And so when I worked back, I was like, right, well, if I need to be talking to this many people and have a brand this big in 10 years time, in 9 years, this is sort of a check mark. And what would I need to know? Who would I need to know in order to make that happen? So then year 8, in order to make year 8 happen, what would I need to have happen first? Does that make sense? So you can almost build this timeline out and start identifying what skills need to be learned. I couldn't speak in public, right? No one would actually even ask me to speak in public, let alone listen to me. And you work your way all the way back to year 1, which is then when you got to focus on, this is your launch pad in that area. Right. So for me, that was like, obviously it sort of tied into a personal development thing, like me growing. It also turned into business because I knew if I was impacting people, I'd have a better business. And so I had to think about what I needed to learn. The first thing I did, and I still remember it to this day, that I did from that workshop where I made that decision, was the next day I came home and ran my first event at home. I had no idea on how to run an event. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I did it, and I had like 4 people. Right. And then I ran them weekly, literally for 4 years. And I've got fucking photos of all this. And I started running them around, Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland. And every time I did it, I got more people. I got more confident in my speaking. I got challenged. I learned how to set up bigger and bigger events. So I was learning and growing in the process. And what actually for me happened probably 4 years in was I realized that, I don't want to be doing, that's not the goal I want. But the lens that I was looking through at that point in time, that helped me grow for 4 years pretty heavily. So when you think about your vision, gents, don't go, fuck, what if I don't want this in 10 years time? That's okay, because through doing, as I said last night, you're going to get the answers to go, do we need to pivot? Do we need to sidestep? Does that make sense? So I would, maybe just for the sake of this, because it's only 3 days, let's set a 3-year vision. Okay, and we'll utilize these questions I know I've got 5 years there, but let's use 3 years because it's probably more achievable to get done tonight. And if you do want to do 5 years, you can redo it over the weekend. But we want to think about these things. And yes, do 8 areas. Obviously, maybe if depending on your time, you might just choose 1 or 2 or 4 for homework. But I would highly encourage you guys to do it for all 8 areas. My 10-year vision is about 24 pages. Like, it's fairly thorough. You know, I had another one where I wanted to be speaking for Nike or be an ambassador for Nike for mental health, but I'm an ambassador for Lululemon. So as a trade-off, I'm happy to take. So, gents, the questions that we need to start thinking about, and this is where we peel back the blinders and we think about our blind spots, right? What's currently missing from helping us achieve what we want to achieve? Number 1, who would you like to hang around more that is a great influence on you? And there's some people that I put when I did this back in 2016 that aren't on there anymore. But back then, when I was heavy into podcasts, I had people like Joe Rogan. I had Ben Greenfield, who was a guru in fitness, still is, but not really my kind of dude now. I had Dwayne Johnson, like even people that I may never meet. But what that helps me do by focusing on that is understanding the characteristics of the people that I'm looking to hang around. Why would I want to spend time with Joe Rogan? Why would I want to spend time with Dwayne Johnson? What is it that you're looking for? Because then what we then do, fucking strive to meet them. If I get to meet those people one day, you'll be hearing about it. But then I go, okay, well, where are the other people that have those characteristics? Because there's definitely more out there. You know, I believe, you know, I'm just, because Coppo's on my screen, there's 4 people on my screen, Tyus, Hursty, Coppo and Phil, but I know I'm fortunate to see Coppo a fair bit. And like, he's someone that I look up to, you know, and how he raises a family and how he runs a business. So for me, there's, you know, characteristics within Coppo where I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to be around him for that. So start thinking about the people that you have in your network, right? You may not have those people, because I definitely didn't. But then it's about, how do I create that? And as I mentioned last night, guys, and the reason why we went through these first steps is the limiting belief might be, why would they want to spend time with me? I had that. You know, I'll never find people like that. What do I say when I'm around those people? Right? That's growth in itself. What are the limiting beliefs? How do you make yourself feel valuable enough to be in the presence of people that you perceive maybe to be better than you when they're not? But it's just it's a perception, right? And that's where the work might start for you. It's not about actually getting there yet. It's going, righto, this is where I want to be in 3 years' time, 10 years' time. This is where I currently am. And this is the shit that I need to work on. These are the skills that I have. I need to have the habits of, you know, that someone like that would want to hang around with. Does that make sense? And it could be overwhelming, but like I said, if you start at 3 year, work back to 2 year, work back to 1 year, and then start thinking about skills, habits, experiences that you need to have, goals that you need to have, right? What do you need to value? They're all going to really come into play. And if you sort of try to neglect that, you're going to really struggle, because there's that quote, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm a massive believer in like having the right people around you, because life continues to, you know, we're seeing what COVID's doing to a lot of us, you know, and it's affecting not from, you know, obviously the virus itself, but then mental health, and it's people losing finances. Like, there's this huge ripple effect, right? And that happens to people every day in life, and maybe not the same situation, or maybe not the same intensity, but that's why we need the right people around us to hold and make us aware of the standards that we want to have. So I'll give you, let's go 45 seconds. Oh, boys, I'm already running over. I'm really sorry. 45 seconds to write down a few names of people that you want to hang around, or you'd like to spend more time around, that you feel would be a great influence. They could be people that you know, people that you listen to, or just people that you haven't even met yet. Ian said me, mate, you make me feel very good about myself. Thanks, mate. All right. If anyone wants to write their a couple in the chat, that's cool. So other people can read it and see what other people are intrigued by. We'll skip number 2, which is obviously what are your current goals, because we'll go through that with the 7-day game plan tomorrow. The next question you need to ask yourself is if you're prepared to and open to changing and overcoming limiting beliefs in order to dream big. So like I said before, right, with the limiting beliefs, they're thoughts or opinions that you believe to be true about yourself. So it might be, bad things always happen to me. I'll never find love. I'll never be able to run a business, like stuff like that. If you have limiting beliefs like that, which I believe all of us have some in some way, shape or form, you must be open to being able to change that. And it's not about, the biggest one might be say, bad things always happen to me. Someone goes, right, I'm going to be positive, and I'm just going to say bad things don't happen to me. That's a negation linguistically. So when we process language, and the English language being one of the most confusing fucking languages out there, when we process, I don't want bad things to happen to me, or bad things won't happen to me. What do you think you're processing? Bad things won't happen to me. You're still thinking of bad things happening. So you need to shift, like, what would the flip side of bad things don't happen to me or won't happen to me be? I'm in charge of my life, or my life's thriving, or good things always happen for me. And that's how we need to start shifting our language, guys. And I was reading a thing today on what's called the positivity ratio, right? And it was a study done, I think I'm not going to quote the university, but they found that for every negative mood or emotion that we experience, we need 3 positive ones to drown that out. And that was studied. And you can look at, just Google positivity ratio. So if I were to ask you guys right now, and if you were to draw a line down the middle of your page, if for those who have a notepad there, and on one side write positive emotions, and on the other side write negative, write down all the positive emotions that you experienced today, or all the positive thoughts that you experienced today. And then on the flip side, if you were to write down all the negative thoughts that you experienced today, and all the negative emotions that you experienced today. So what generally happens, even when I do the emotional home exercise, which is that, I might give you 2 minutes each side. Majority of the time, it'll either come back even, or the negative side generally rules. So you can understand from an emotional home standpoint that most people are living in a pretty negative, pessimistic place, right? So you think about when you're in a negative mind, you're not expanding your mind. You're not expanding what you think is possible for yourself. You're reining it in. It's like that black fucking hole that, if anyone's experienced that, it's like a terrible rainy day in the UK, George, that never goes away. I think that
every day.
I think that just is the UK, mate. So when we look at that, if you say, for example, understanding what I read today with that study is that, if you're experiencing, you experience 5 negative emotions today, or negative thoughts, and you only had 5, we need to get that to 15 on the positive side, which means that if it's not happening naturally, you need to create time where you intentionally do that. Right? You can do that through practicing gratitude. You can do that through writing affirmations. You can do that through sitting on the balcony with a coffee, thinking about how fucking nice the kookaburras are on the railings, or the sunrise is, whatever works for you. Right? But it's then about making time to be intentional with that stuff. Does that make sense? So that's the limiting belief sort of stuff. So you got to be prepared to change that. Are you prepared to improve your health for more clarity and energy? It's so cliche that your health is your greatest wealth. And if you're always putting yourself last, and you're not sleeping well, you're not feeling energized, you're feeling stressed, you're not feeling, your body's just not running at 100%, that's going to affect everything. Think about walking up the stairs and puffing. You don't get to the top of the stairs going, hell yeah, I'm ready to crush this meeting. You get to the top of the stairs going, fuck me, I need to have a breather. So this is why, going back to understanding once again, and this outcome of what that looks like is very specific to you guys and what you want to live for your quality of life, right? What does a successful health look like for you? For me, I want to be able to outperform my kids even when they're 18. I want to be able to race upstairs. I don't want to be one of those old people who shuffle and it looks so uncomfortable when they're 80. I want to be still running around. So every day now I keep that in the back of my mind that I want to make sure I look after my sleep, I eat well, I move well. That's always in the back of my mind because I know where I want to be when I am 80 and when I am 90. And it may seem like, well, why would you think that far ahead? But generally, if you don't plan, you're going to be at the effect of everything else that's happening around you. And you don't want to be one of those 80-year-old people and go, fuck, I wish I'd looked after my health more. Think about some high moments that you may experience on your journey, right? The reason why I want you to think about, and obviously also what are some low moments that you experience? The reason why I want you to think about both is because when people hit a new level of success, and once again, this could be you have a better relationship with your kids, or your relationship, or you might earn more money. What happens for most people is they don't know how to emotionally regulate that. And that's why you see so many people who hit the jackpot fucking crash even harder. Or you might be going well in a relationship and then you sabotage it. So I want you to think about the possible high moments that can happen and how you can be prepared to emotionally regulate it, because achieving high highs, you should really learn to manage that. And same with when the lows come, which they will. How do you learn to regulate that and manage that as well? Because the lows don't define you. They're an extension of maybe some habits or actions or standards that you've had that you can learn from. Just like, once again, the high moments don't define you, because yesterday's hero could be tomorrow's villain, right? And we need to be mindful of that with how we're showing up. Footy players, NRL players especially, are a fucking good one of the high moments where they, George, you don't have NRL over here, mate, but they do a great job that with a fall from grace. Who we got here? Jordan Peterson. I would love to have a yarn with Jordan Peterson. Ryan Holiday. I love Ryan Holiday. He's my favorite rider. Lockie Man Crush. Oh, Keeg Smith. He's a good bloke as well. Smov Crew. And Adzi. I think it's about understanding the equilibrium of both. For every negative, there are positives and vice versa. And there is something brilliant about understanding that it's a steady balance between positive and negative, 100%. And it's as Adam said, it's once again also balancing that down to what you're working on. For example, as I was saying last night, if you're focusing on something in the short term, you're going to sacrifice something else, right? It might be if you're focusing on a sprint in your business, you might be sacrificing your relationship and the normal exercise routine, which this is what I'm currently doing, and the normal exercise routine. Okay, but I know in the long term what I've got to invest in that to get it back to where I want it to be. Okay, so gents, the homework that I'm going to leave you with is these questions just on this page, but I do want to quickly talk to you about standards and expectations, which are really important with this as well. But what would you like your life to look like or feel like? And let's just say 3 years. If you do want to go 5 years, be my guest, but let's just say so we can check in with you tomorrow. Let's go 3 years. So think forward to 2025. And if you have no idea, it's a good time to start making some decisions. I know George wants to be in Australia. He's been saying that for ages. But so start making some decisions, guys, because at least you're giving yourself somewhere to aim for, because then you can work back and think about skills, habits, experiences, who you need to network, what you need to value. Okay? This is where the hard work comes in, where you actually have to start doing a bit of research and answering some questions when you get stuck. Because if you keep saying to yourself, I don't know what I need to learn, I don't know what habits I need to get, or I don't know how to learn that habit, you're going to stay exactly where you are now. Right? So it's highly important to start answering, giving yourself something to aim towards, because this is then how you create purpose, right? If you've got something to get up and learn every day, or something that you've got to get up and do every day, that's purpose. It could be learning an entire fucking shoelace for all that matters. It's not needing to be Elon Musk all the time or have something that's going to always change the world. You just got to change the fucking world. That's the whole point of purpose. So you'll see the box underneath it, guys. Start identifying, like I said, what skills you might need to learn, what habits you might need to have. Habits for me is my morning routine because it primes me for the day. It's exercising daily. It's reading daily, spending time with my partner daily. The environment that I need to be around, I like to hang around high achievers. And high achievers for me are people who excel in being great husbands or partners, because that's really important to me. People who excel at being great fucking mates. People who are unreal at business. Right? People who have epic fucking lifestyles, because I want to keep reminding myself that that's possible, because I haven't achieved that yet. But that's what I want to be around, because I want to learn and understand their physiology. Cool. Does anyone have any questions on that before I quickly just touch on the standards and expectations? Sun still comes up in the morning, maybe not in England. 30 degrees in England. All right. Yeah, England's getting ripped on. Sorry, George.
Hey, I'm just going to turn my camera around in a minute, mate. Brings it out sunshine. Right.
Is that a photo?
Mate, that's my office view, mate.
Airpod, and that's a photo. Righto, gents. Finally, as well, obviously, go through, answer those questions, and if you get stuck with any of them, reach out to me, or when I send the replay out in the morning, just hit me back with an email with questions, or you can message me on Facebook. But just take time to start doing that. You can go into so much more depth with that, which once again, I would highly encourage you doing, and it will take you time. Anything worth doing generally takes time. The more you do it, like we spoke about yesterday, the more efficient you become at it, and the faster you can do it, because you have a greater understanding of what you want and what works well for you. Moving to standards and expectations. This is how you conduct yourself day in, day out to achieve and create the vision, or to achieve the goals, right? There's very easy. Who here set a goal and failed it before? I have. And generally, why? Is because our standards or expectations aren't where we want them to be. There's people who, I'll use an example. Well, I wrote one down here before. An example with a client earlier today was one of the most important things for him is his routine in the morning, which is the gym, the reading, fairly similar to my morning routine anyway. But he's now just started seeing a new Sheila, right? And when he stays with her, he stopped doing his routine. So he's sleeping in for an extra 2 hours, and he's going to work feeling like he's behind, and he doesn't feel as good about himself. So when I look at that, I was just like, mate, you've let your standards drop because of an external influence. And I know it's a relationship, but at the moment, something that's new and you're not set upon, in my opinion, I wouldn't allow it to hinder how I show up and the standards that I've set for myself, because generally the standards that we set for ourselves, whether we're aware of it, gents, or not, most of us have standards, we're just not aware of it, are determining our quality of life, right? Based from your health, from your standards around money, your standards around relationships, your standards even around doing these worksheets. I know last night we had like 30 people or 20 people watch the recording, plus 53 on all the channels. And how many we got tonight? I don't even know, 20 something, right? So the drop off rate, but then even from the 20 on here, how many are doing the workbook? And that's a standard. If you're going to invest time into something, are you going to maintain the high standard to go through and do the things that have been taught? And like I said at the start of the call, it doesn't affect my quality of life, because I know when I get off calls like this or working with my clients, I still keep my standards where I want them to be. And this is where that whole ownership and that whole accountability thing has to start happening, because it's only affecting our quality of life as individuals if we're not maintaining those standards. So you need to think about, what standards do you need to have for yourself, right? If you want to be, and think about in that visions, how do you need to uphold yourself? I know for myself, a standard that I set for myself was minimal alcohol, not because I don't enjoy it, but because my previous experiences with alcohol haven't led to good outcomes. And I also know I'm slow for the next few days. I feel down, right? So by being aware of that, I'm like, well, the standard that I want to have when I'm in peak performance mode is like no alcohol. It's a hard sacrifice to make because I do enjoy beer. I do enjoy all that sort of stuff, but that's the standard that's set. And I then have that expectation of myself in order to perform at my best. I will fuel myself with good nutrition. I will prioritize my sleep and I'll cut the alcohol out. When I'm on holidays, I'm not as focused as performing at my peak. Does that make sense, gents, with the standard? So essentially it's just the rules of your behaviors that you set for yourself. Cool. And obviously then you can align those behaviors to achieve your goals and dreams ultimately. So if you want to be someone who runs a successful business, set some standards around your expectations of behavior to achieve that. If you want to be an incredible partner in your relationships, decide what you believe is going to be the standards of behavior that help you achieve that and then maintain that. Obviously, it's then the whole discipline part. That's essentially it, gentlemen. Does that make sense so far for day 2? I don't know how I ran so far over. Fuck, I must talk a lot. So, gents, for homework tonight, obviously, just go through page where it says vision, standards, expectations, values, routines, and sacrifices. We'll go through tomorrow. Come to me with any questions. So if you reply to the email, shoot me a message on Messenger, or otherwise have them ready for tomorrow night's call so the rest of the group might be able to benefit from them. But just go through there. If you feel like you have limiting beliefs, write them down. Because if you're aware of what you feel they are, you can then start working on changing them. Rather than just going, yep, I have some limited beliefs, start thinking about what they are, right? And what that vision is going to look like. And you might just build on what you did over here for the 8 areas in the 1 year. Just think further ahead. Cool. Epic, gentlemen. Get some thumbs up. Does anyone have any questions before we jump off?
Good.
Let's go. Anything.
Lock, do we need the I think was it the 8 week or 7 week?
The 7-day game plan.
Yeah, game plan printed out for tomorrow.
I would have it printed, guys, personally, because like I said, I have mine here, and like I might even be generous and give you guys a 12-weeker, which I normally only give for the members. Actually, I will. Fuck it, just because I'm feeling you guys are showing up, so I'll give you guys that. But so what I would recommend then, don't print, for those who haven't, don't worry about getting it printed. I'm not going to post or email out the link because I'll just give it to you guys directly on tomorrow night's call for actually showing up. That's I guess a reward for showing up. But yeah, these are fucking epic. So they go for 12 weeks, pretty in depth. So if you stick to that, you'll notice some pretty cool changes. And for those who haven't stuck to anything for 12 weeks before, maybe the first goal is just, being able to get through 12 weeks and look back at that and go, I nailed 80% of that. I missed 20% of the days, which, I may even put my hands up. I miss days from time to time. But looking back and go, I only missed 1 day a week for 12 weeks of taking time for myself to fill this out. That could be a huge win for a lot of us for actually creating time to be intentional with what you want from your day, practicing gratitudes, and getting more out of your time. So that in itself's a banger.
Sweet.
Is this like the diary that we did when I did the
Yeah, but it's better, Chris, because it's mine.
yeah.
You can get them printed at Officeworks.
Yeah, for like what, $13 or something like that.
Yeah, and they bind it and cover it and
Yeah,
do it straight away for you.
Yeah.
It's good.
I just did an updated one yesterday, so it'll be even better than the one everyone else has got. Cool, gentlemen. Well, once again, I honestly appreciate you guys showing up, because like I said, you could be anywhere else. And for those who are asking questions and actually taking the time to do the workbook, like I said, it doesn't have an impact on my life. Like, it makes me feel better knowing that you guys are taking action to achieve more from your own lives, which I think is a cool ripple effect, whether you're becoming better dads, better employees, employers, just better blokes all around. I think that's fucking cool. And I think we need more of that, especially now with, as I touched on before, all the stuff that people are experiencing as a ripple effect of COVID. And, we got Are You OK Day. I think, is it tomorrow? I think it might be tomorrow. Where you should be checking in on your mates. And I think one of the most important parts of everything around that is we do that for one day, but a lot of us aren't developing the relationships where our mates actually may come to us and let you know when they aren't okay, or be able to tell you when they're going through shit, or even just have, relationships about financial struggles, challenges in relationships, like all that sort of stuff. I think by you guys showing up here and actually just working on yourself, you're going to be able to better communicate in those important areas of your life. So I think that's fucking awesome. And Thursdays, Are You OK? Thanks, Adzi. Awesome, gentlemen. Righto, rip into it. Have a great night. I appreciate you guys jumping in. We'll see you tomorrow night.
You lads.
Oh,
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Hey,
Lockie.
you're all
See you
right,
tomorrow.
So just quickly. No, someone's gone. 5:45 tomorrow, just because I have to speak at a charity event, which my speak time's been moved forward. So 5:45, I will email that out. And I know because it is 15 minutes early, if you still rock up at any point, I'll send you that book. Sweet.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thanks
James.
a lot.
Lockie,
Cheers, buddy.
have a good night.